Mark Zuckerberg's journey to becoming the CEO of Facebook is often told as a simple tale of a college student who built a website that took over the world. But the real story is far deeper, more complicated, more emotional, and more human than most people ever understand. To appreciate the scale of what he achieved, we must go back to the early years of his life, long before Facebook existed, when Mark was just a shy, intelligent, curious boy growing up in a quiet household in New York. Born on May 14, 1984, Mark was raised in a supportive family that valued education and creativity. His father, Edward Zuckerberg, worked as a dentist, and his mother, Karen, was a psychiatrist. Both parents believed in encouraging their children's interests, and Mark, even from a very young age, showed a fascination with computers. When he was only a kid, he didn't just play video games like other children his age. He wanted to open them, analyze them, and understand how they worked. The sounds of keyboard clicks, beeping electronics, and lines of code on a glowing screen fascinated him more than toys or sports. When Mark's father brought home their first computer, a simple machine compared to today's standards, something clicked inside young Mark's mind. He loved exploring its functions, experimenting with simple programming tasks, and learning how to create small digital tools. His talent progressed so quickly that his father hired a private programming tutor named David Newman. When the tutor first met Mark, he quickly realized that the boy's mind worked much faster than most students he had ever taught. Newman often described Mark as a prodigy, someone who grasped programming concepts almost instantly. Mark would finish lessons early, move on to harder concepts, and ask questions that surprised even experienced programmers. At the age of just 12, Mark created a basic messaging system called ZuckNet to help his father's dental office communicate internally. Patients at the reception desk could send messages to the dentist room using Mark's program. For a 12-year-old to build such a system was extraordinary, and his parents proudly supported him. As he moved into high school, his reputation as a gifted programmer grew. He built simple games for fun, created tools for friends, and even developed an intelligent music software program that could learn a user's taste and make personalized playlists, something far ahead of its time. Companies even tried to buy his projects, but Mark wasn't motivated by money. He wanted to build things that made people's lives easier, more interesting, or more connected. When Mark entered Harvard University in 2002, he was already known as a brilliant mind among those who followed. Programming competitions. Harvard was filled with ambitious students, future leaders, brilliant thinkers, but Mark still stood out because of the intensity of his ideas and his speed of execution. To Mark, Harvard was more than a prestigious school. It was a place filled with possibilities and people who could inspire ideas. He wasn't one of the most outgoing students. He was introverted, quiet, often thinking deeply even when others were socializing. But he had a small circle of close friends, including Dustin Moskovitz, Eduardo Saverin, Chris Hughes, and Andrew McCollum, who would later become vital in Facebook's early growth. One night, in his Harvard dorm room, Mark created a website called FaceMash, purely as a fun experiment. The idea was simple. Compare two photos of students and let users vote on who looked better. He pulled photos from Harvard's database, connected them to a simple voting system, and launched the website in the middle of the night. What happened next shocked him. By early morning, thousands of students were on the site. The traffic was so heavy that Harvard's servers crashed temporarily. The university took the site down and criticized Mark. But the incident opened his eyes to something incredibly important. People love connecting, sharing, comparing, and interacting online. Even though FaceMash was controversial, It revealed a powerful truth. There was a huge demand for digital social interaction. This insight sparked the idea that would change the world. Mark imagined a platform where students could create profiles, share information, connect with friends, and express themselves. He discussed the concept with his roommates, and in early 2004, Mark, along with a few close friends, began working on a project they called the Facebook. The first version was incredibly simple compared to what we see today, but the idea behind it was revolutionary. When they launched it exclusively for Harvard students, they expected a few hundred sign-ups. Instead, almost every Harvard student joined within a few days. The excitement on campus was electric. People were talking about this new platform everywhere. In hallways, dining rooms, dorms, libraries. Mark had accidentally created something that felt like a digital extension of the university's social life. Seeing this overwhelming response, Mark and his team expanded Facebook to other Ivy League universities. The growth was explosive. Students at Yale, Stanford, Columbia, and others joined in massive numbers. Each new campus brought thousands of new users. It became clear that the Facebook was not just another college project. It was becoming a cultural movement. Mark began to feel the pressure of choosing between academic life and the rapidly growing platform. After months of stress, sleepless nights, and endless decisions, Mark did something that many considered reckless. He dropped out of Harvard to focus entirely on Facebook. This decision shocked everyone, his friends, professors, and even his family. For most people, leaving Harvard is unimaginable. But Mark believed deeply that Facebook could change how people interacted globally. In Silicon Valley, he set up Facebook's first office. Small, messy, filled with computers, pizza boxes, and whiteboards full of ideas. Mark and his team worked day and night, pushing out new features, fixing bugs, crafting the user experience, and dreaming of a connected world. Money was tight at first, but soon investors began noticing Facebook's incredible potential. One of the first major investments came from Peter Thiel, giving the young company much-needed financial stability. As Facebook grew from thousands to millions of users, Mark faced criticism, lawsuits, media attacks, and intense competition. Google tried to build competing products. Yahoo even offered to buy Facebook for $1 billion. But Mark refused. People called him crazy, turning down $1 billion at just 22 years old. But Mark already saw Facebook's future. He knew that selling it would mean giving up the chance to build something historic. Mark's greatest strength wasn't just programming, it was vision. He saw beyond the present and imagined what people would want years later. Under his leadership, Facebook introduced features like News Feed, which became one of the most recognizable aspects of social media. At first, users hated it. They called it intrusive. They protested. Mark received messages demanding he shut it down. But he didn't panic. He improved it, refined it, and turned it into the core of the Facebook experience. Over the years, Mark pushed Facebook into new dimensions. He acquired Instagram for $1 billion when people thought it was just a simple photo-sharing app. That decision later proved genius, as Instagram became one of the most influential platforms of the decade. He bought WhatsApp, believing that messaging should be fast, global, and accessible. He invested billions in virtual reality through Oculus, imagining a future where people would not just communicate but experience digital worlds together. Mark faced challenges, privacy issues, government investigations, global controversies, but through every storm, he kept focusing on the mission he believed in: connecting people. Behind the scenes, Mark's life changed too. From being a shy teenager who loved computers, He transformed into one of the youngest billionaires in the world. Yet he lived simply, wore the same gray shirts, preferred modest routines, and kept working like the same curious boy who once coded in his childhood bedroom. For Mark, Facebook was not just a company, it was his life's work. He poured his energy, his youth, his ideas, and his heart into building a digital society where people could share their lives with anyone, anywhere. His story teaches us that success is not just about brilliance, it's about persistence, risk, sacrifice, and the courage to be misunderstood. Mark was criticized, doubted, and even mocked, but he kept going because he believed deeply in his vision. Today, billions of people use platforms built under his leadership. Families stay connected across continents. Friends stay in touch from childhood to adulthood. Businesses grow, ideas spread, thrive. All because of one idea that began inside a tiny Harvard dorm room. Mark Zuckerberg's journey is proof that one person, one laptop, and one idea can change the course of human communication forever. His story reminds us that greatness is built step by step, experiment by experiment, and failure by failure. It shows that age doesn't matter. Background doesn't matter. What matters is vision, commitment, and the willingness to work harder than anyone else. From a curious child, exploring his first computer, to the CEO of one of the biggest tech companies in the world, Mark proved that dreams backed by relentless effort can reshape the world.